Hi, so welcome to the new Crazy Jack workshop garage. We've moved house recently, and now instead of working in a little sort of shed thing in the garden, I'm creating this workshop studio here where I can get things done properly. Right, okay, I'm going to come over to the bench and have a look at a couple of things I'm working on before we go into talking about selecting the woods for Nick's Crazy Jack drifter amplifier. Here we go. Okay, so in the last episode I was talking about this piece of wood here, which is a very nice piece of what I think is oak, 3 pieces doweled together to make one piece. I've had a quick chat with Nick and he said yes, go ahead, please use that, even though it's a tiny bit smaller than the usual drifter amp size. But this is a lovely piece of wood. I've had great results with this wood in other amp projects, so that's what I really want to use for Nick's project. Now before that, I'll just show you a couple of things I'm working on here. Now this is going off to a customer today. This is the Crazy Jack Big Nose, I'm calling it. Now obviously those of you who know the old Pig Nose amp will recognise will see a resemblance here. But even though I say it myself, I think this is better. As I said, the whole idea with the Crazy Jack amplifiers is to get the best clean volume out of a 9-volt battery amp as possible, and so far I think I've succeeded. All of my customers in fact absolutely love it. Then I thought there's a lot of work goes into making the front out of 3 strips of pallet wood, so I thought, how can I sort of economize on this a bit and therefore make it more affordable. So basically the Big Nose, as I'm calling it, Crazy Jack Big Nose, has 2 pieces here, so that means instead of doing 2 pieces of doweling job, which takes quite a lot of time, there's only 1 set of dowels keeping these together. Obviously we have to make sure that they don't impact on the position of the LED and the on-off button there. That's on, that's off. Okay, so another economy in the Crazy Jack Big Nose amps is that I'm using, instead of having a control panel on the top, like an aluminium control panel on top, which means you've got to cut that out and drill that and mark it and finish it and everything and then fit it. I've reduced everything down to on-off and volume all in this one switch. It's not something I personally like. I'd like to be able to turn an amp off and keep it at the volume that I usually play, but it's not a big deal. And it makes it simpler and quicker to build as well. Of course, we've got the battery compartment in the bottom and the speaker out socket still, which enables you to put this amp through an even bigger speaker. Okay, so that's the finished one, which is going off today. I'm also working, and because this is a prototype, I thought, well, I'd better make a copy of it before I send it off. So this is an exact replica I'm working on here in exactly the same woods, and you can see there the difference in finish. This is great pallet wood. I don't know what this is, but it works. It cuts really nicely, it sands well, you can carve it. I'm using a file here to finish off the the contours of the speaker cavity here, but it starts off this colour and then you put on some of the Plasticoat stuff, which I use, which is great because it seals the wood, keeps the grain all together, it stops it being damaged from spillages and stuff, and it also brings out the grain in a really nice way. And I like to have features like, even though this like mottled mucky bit of grain here, it gives it character, So this one will look exactly like that when it's finished. But I thought I'd just show you the raw wood. Here we have, starts with making the front pieces, joining these 2 together with dowels, and then I put on this nice sturdy base here, and I've got some 22mm pine, which is painted red on the pallets. That all sort of scrapes off, but it's a lovely sturdy base. I like to make these with the weight on the bottom, so the battery compartment on the bottom, the heavier woods on the bottom, even the speaker quite low sometimes, but and the volume knob, so as much weight as I can on the bottom. The reason for that is when you plug in your guitar lead, lots of people making these mini amps have the plug-in at the top, which is which emulates a real amplifier, as it were. But the problem with that is then you've got all the if you yank the cable and you pull it, this is going to go on the floor and get damaged. Whereas the Crazy Jack thinking, you see, we have the guitar jack in here, so you're pulling in this direction here, And if you've got, as I say, the heavier components in the bottom of the amplifier here, then the centre of gravity is low. Centre of gravity in an amplifier? Yes, it does matter. So here we go. So that's the reason why I have the guitar in socket down here. And so there we go. So we have two pieces fitted together on the top. Then I add the bass piece here, nice chunky bit of wood, and then the sides, cut out the holes, the cavities, and so on, and put the top on. And of course it's glued. As you can see, it's a nice sturdy box. You could run a tank over that, though. I doubt if it would crush it. Maybe. It's a nice sturdy box. So all the sides are cut. The joints are basically simple butts. But one piece butts up against another. But every joint is glued and screwed, so you end up with this remarkably sturdy little box. So even though I'm not going to roll it down the stairs like Vox did in their early adverts, you could do, and I'm sure it would survive. Right, okay, so there's this one, just doing the final sanding, and then we're going to spray it, and that one's ready for fitting up with the amplifier, the internal components and speaker. Right, now on to the amplifier I'm building for Nick, who I think is in Margate from memory. Okay, so yesterday I was saying about this nice piece of wood, and I do believe, as I said to Nick by email last night, I'm a great believer in tone woods. I studied classical music, violin, and played in lots of bands and things over the years, acoustic guitars and a violin. Now, if a fragile little piece of wood like a violin can fill a concert hall with sound, there's got to be something in tone woods. So even though guys like Dylan talks tone, no offence Dylan, mate, says that it's all rubbish, it's all down to the pickups, I don't agree. Every piece of wood matters. So here we are. You can all see that's where you take a check. Let me just show you the sound of this one. I'm still going to put the back plates on this one, but I did this just now, and you can start to hear straight away the resonance of this thing. Oops. Okay, so that's going to help when you put a speaker in there. Right, so let's move this down here onto Nick's amplifier. Now I had a look over in my wood pile last night, and I selected this set of woods right here. Bring these over. Okay, now I've got, this is the wood that I used for the base. This came off a very chunky pallet which was painted a dark red. I don't know what that means, but we're not going to be burning this in a fire or anything, hopefully, so I don't think, even if it is some sort of chemical, it's not going to be too much of a problem having it on the underside of an amplifier, even if it's sanded off. Now, this was a fantastic pallet, and all of the Crazy Jack amps so far have had a piece of this wood in the base. Look at that. Comes up beautifully. So I wanted to continue to use this as a base. Unfortunately, the only pieces I've got left have got this chamfer, which doesn't really matter. But this is for forklift trucks, I think, probably that way up, to help them engage with the wood and lift it. So, and you can even see the scraping going that way in these pieces of wood. Unfortunately, the other bits of wood that I wanted to use for the sides of the drifter amp, which is slightly narrower than this one. This is the 103 millimeters wide piece, and I've got pieces of that which are suitable. Whoops, where's it gone? I had this all sorted out yesterday. I think that's a wider piece. Let me just check. It's 103 millimeters I was going for. Oh no, that's something else. So what's this all about? I'm sure there's another piece missing somewhere. Oh yeah, that's right. So basically this piece is 103? No, 95. Oh, it's 103 millimeters with the front piece on it, right? So I've got this piece here. Are these the right woods? Hold on a second. Right, yes, sorry about that. Thought I was going crazy there for the minute. Spent some time working this out last night. Right, so ignore that. Here's the wood. Okay, it looks a bit dirtier. but don't worry, when that's sanded off and stuff, it'll come up looking like this one. Whoops. Right, so the whole point was, as I said, yes, it was 103 millimeters. Yeah, 103 millimeters wide in the drifter amp. So basically, I've found these two pieces of wood. As you can see, they're covered with cement dust and junk like that, but that'll all sand off nicely. And when I cut them down to rough length, as you can see, again, this is nice close grained wood. It's not junk. Some of this pallet wood is junk, but some of it's really nice. And listen to that. That sounds great. I like that. This piece, oh, that's even better. Slightly more trebly tone in there. But look at the end grain on that. You see, nice and close. Now, some of these pieces have splits in them, like here and here, but it's not the same split. It might be in that one, I'm not sure. But there's several sort of splits. But it doesn't go all the way through. And the point is, when these are all joined up together in a box like this, it's sort of, every side supports the other. So it becomes very rigid and firm, and it's not going to fall apart. Okay, so I've got this piece for the sides. It's 103 millimeters, and this piece is going to go on the top like this. Very sturdy. This is going to be a lovely sturdy amp. And these are two of the wider pieces I've got at the moment, which means I don't have to do joints down the side. I don't have to make the sides out of two pieces of wood, for example. I mean, these are one, but you know, it just adds extra work. If I can get it all into out of one piece, that's great. So I've got these two pieces here. That'll make two sides. This will make the top. But my problem is, I'm working to 103 millimeters width in this, and I wanted to use up this piece of wood because I did want to save this. This is a wide, very wide piece. I wanted to save that for something else. Unfortunately, these pieces I've got like this, which I'd hoped would be the base, are going to be too, if I put it that way, you'll probably see, can you see down here, that's not going to meet up. Now I could fill that with another piece of wood, but again that adds extra work. I don't really want to do that. The fact that there's a chamfer here doesn't matter, because when it's inside the amplifier like this, you're not going to see that, and I don't think it matters too much to the sound. However, even though I'd like to use this wood, I will use it for something else. So I've decided I'm going to use the best quality wood for next project. So I've got this lovely bit of oak to go on the front. I'm going to use this big chunky piece, which is almost perfectly straight. Great grain in that. That's going to look lovely on the bottom when that's sanded out. So basically, here's the front, and here's the base. Okay, there's your first two pieces. I'll see if I can get this into camera, just to give you an idea of how this thing's going to start piecing together. And then we'll have the sides like this. So there you go, Nick, there's the beginnings of your amplifier. Okay folks, I'm going to cut these down to size. That's the selection of the woods basically. In the next little episode I'm going to be cutting these down to sides, dry fitting them together, and then I'll show you how I glue and screw the whole box together to make the cabinet. Right, thanks for watching this episode. Stay tuned for the next one. Crazy Jack, over and out. A quick aside, you can see how nice this wood is, because it's given a nice straight cut, and even though I'm right down to the last few what do you call it, the grain, you know, last few fibres, it's still holding on. Look at that beautiful wood. Right, just finish this off. There we go. Can you see that lovely straight cut? And the fine grain means we've got a lovely edge to this. Let's have a look at that, shall we? Now, I've got a little bit of a wobbly bench. I haven't fixed it to the wall yet, but the bench is actually made out of a pallet itself. I love this stuff. Right, so here we go. There's our side cut. It looks pretty straight to me. I'm happy with that. So that's the edge of the amplifier here. The other edge was already cut by the machine at the lumber factory or whatever. I've just got to trim off tiny pieces here and over here to make a nice rectangular piece. There we go, that's the front of Nick's amplifier. That's this edge here, when that's sanded and finished with the plastic coat stuff, that's going to be a lovely smooth edge. One of the things I really like about my amps is the fact that they're quite tactile. They're just nice to hold. And as I said in one of the previous videos, I've already sanded this just to test how this is going to come out. That's lovely and smooth. You can still see the cuts from the milling machine or sawing machine when they created these pallets, but that's the part of the character. I like to leave that in there, as well as a few knots. Right, next stage. Okay, so we've cut this to pretty much a rectangular shape, and what I'm doing now is just sanding off these edges here and here, which will become the front, top and the bottom. There we go. And this wood, as it's sanding, is so hard and the grain is so dense. Can you see that? It's beautiful stuff. This is going to look absolutely beautiful when it's finished. I just started sanding the front slightly to make it nicer to work with, no splinters poking out there. And already I can feel the silkiness of this wood coming through. Not sure if you see the sheen. Can you see the sheen that's sort of built in, grown into the wood? It's beautiful. Amazing stuff, this wood, isn't it? Right, so just got to sand this down to make a perfect rectangle, and then we'll be popping our base on it.